and welcome back to Science with Miss Wardell. Today we're talking about measuring weather. I'm on page 392. We're going to do 392 and 393. Alright? Measuring weather. It's okay to say that it's cold and rainy outside, but when we need to know exactly what the weather is, we must measure it. Okay? So we must measure it. As we read this page under their heading and turn the heading into a question in your mind and circle sentences that answer the question. So temperature is a measure of how hot or cold something is. The tool we use to measure temperature is a thermometer. Okay, now hang on. As we read the page, turn the heading into a question in your mind and circle sentences that answer the question. Well, how do we measure? One way is that we use the tool thermometer, right? So I can circle this sentence. Because that answers our question, how do we measure weather? The heading that they're talking about and turning into a question is here. How do we measure weather? How? We use a tool called a thermometer to measure temperature. That's how. So see what we're doing? Air temperature is measured in degrees Celsius or degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature of the atmosphere affects the kind of precipitation that falls above 0 degrees Celsius. So 0, this little O, we say it as a degrees Celsius. Rain is likely. Below 0 degrees Celsius, the air is so cold that rain, sleet, or snow may fall. Sometimes it rains so much that it's hard to see anything. A rain gauge is a tool that collects rain and shows how much has fallen. So how do we measure weather? Well, one of the ways is with a rain gauge. So I can circle this sentence because this talks about how to measure rain. If wind is blowing, we can tell the direction is coming from the wind with a wind vane. A wind meter tells how fast the wind is blowing. So now this talks about two different ways that we can use a wind meter and a wind vane. So I'm going to circle these last two sentences here. They talk about how we can measure wind. Next, we're going to look at the different types of measuring tools. We're going to look at the thermometer, the rain gauge, the wind vane, and the wind meter. For thermometer, it says a thermometer is a tube filled with liquid. And when the air gets hotter, the liquid moves up the tube. When the air gets cooler, the liquid moves down the tube. To find the temperature, read the top number next to the top of the liquid. So here I look at the red liquid, and it's hard to see on just mine, so you really might need to look at yours. But here we're talking from 60. So in between 60 would be 70. And now I count the little dashes. 70, 71, 72, 73. So it looks about 73 degrees Fahrenheit. Or 23, 20, 21, 22, 23 degrees Celsius. So it looks, we can measure it either one, Fahrenheit or degrees. Fahrenheit or Celsius. Rain gauge. A rain gauge measures rainfall. How do you read a rain gauge? Look at the water in the gauge. Read the number where the water line where the water lines up with the scale. Rain can be measured in centimeters or inches. A rain gauge is emptied after each use to measure before rainfall, because it's not accurate if you continuously measure it. You're supposed to measure it in between every rainfall. Okay, so read the instruments and record the temperature, rain amounts, and wind directions and lines provided. So we're doing that. Here, let's see, is this where the rain is? It looks like it. This is 2. Let's go 2. It's hard to see. Let's see what it's counting by. 2, 6, 8, 10, 12. So that tells me that it's probably counting by 2. So this must be like a 4. So this is right at 4 centimeters. 4 centimeters. So it's important to know what things are counting by. A wind vane shows the way the wind is blowing. The bird below looks in the direction the wind is coming from. The wind can come from east, west, north, south, or somewhere in between. So we've talked about this with our compass rose, right? Where you have, this would be south, here would be north, okay? So over here to the left would be west, to the right would be east. Remember, it spells we. When they say in between, they're talking about these other directions, okay? So that's when we combine, for example, you have north and east, and the one in between it would be called northeast. In between east and south, you would have southeast. In between south and west, you would have southwest. And in between north and west, you would have northwest. So you always put north or south first, depending on which one it is, okay? West and east always come second. So in this case, which way is the bird pointing? Well, looks like he's pointing this way towards the west. A wind meter. A wind meter measures how fast the wind blows. Okay, so there's nothing that we're really going to do there. And then, let's see. I'm not going to do the math, so you can take that part out and send me pictures of all of the written parts that we've done today. Okay? Bye, guys.